She picked the wrong man to betray.
I'm elbow deep in greasy car parts, midnight oil and sarcasm fueling me, when Sarah's laughter rings from the house, followed by a suspiciously intimate male voice. My gut churns. No one ever suspects the underdog, especially when he's busy fixing everyone else's mess. The wrench slips from my oil-slicked fingers, clattering against the concrete garage floor. That laugh, Sarah's laugh, but different, softer, more intimate. The kind of laugh she used to give me before her father's money started talking louder than our marriage vows. I wipe my hands on an old rag, the familiar scent of motor oil mixing with something else drifting from our supposedly empty house. Sarah told me she'd be at her book club tonight, same story she's been feeding me for the past 3 months. Tom, you're being paranoid, I mutter to myself, but my feet are already carrying me toward the back door. The kitchen light casts long shadows across our marble countertops. Another gift from Gerald Anderson, Sarah's father, who never lets me forget that his little princess deserves better than a small-town investment advisor. The house feels different tonight, charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. I hear Sarah's voice again, coming from the living room. Ryan, you're terrible, she giggles. Ryan, that name hits me like a punch to the solar plexus. Ryan Mitchell, the golden boy at Anderson Holdings, Gerald's protege, and apparently my wife's new entertainment. My boxing training kicks in, stay calm, assess the situation, plan your next move. I've been underestimated my entire life. Short, stocky, and working class in a world of tall, handsome trust fund babies. But underestimation has always been my secret tool. I creep closer to the living room, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the crack in the door, I see them. Sarah, my wife of 8 years, curled up on our leather sofa, another Anderson family gift, with Ryan's arm wrapped around her shoulders. Her head rests against his chest, and his fingers trace lazy circles on her arm. When are you going to tell him? Ryan asks, his voice carrying that prep school arrogance that makes my teeth clench. Sarah sighs, a sound I haven't heard from her in months. Soon. Tom's been so distant lately, buried in his work. I don't think he'll even care. Won't care? Lady, you have no idea what's coming. I back away slowly, my mind already spinning. The investment portfolio I've been building for Anderson Holdings suddenly takes on new significance. 49% ownership hidden under a shell company I created 2 years ago when Gerald first started treating me like hired help. Insurance, I told myself then. Now it looks like I'll need to cash in that policy. Back in the garage, I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find Hank Morrison, my financial fixer, and the only person in this town who understands that quiet guys can be dangerous guys. Tom, it's almost midnight, buddy. Hank, I need you to do something for me. Remember that Anderson Holdings investment we structured through Meridian Capital? The 49% stake? Yeah, what about it? I want you to start pulling strings. Quietly. Make Gerald sweat a little. Hank's silence stretches for a long moment. Tom, that's a $50 million company. If you start yanking support, then they'll learn not to bite the hand that feeds them. What happened? I watch, through the garage window, as Ryan's BMW pulls out of my driveway, Sarah silhouetted in the doorway like she's seeing off a lover, which apparently she is. Let's just say the Anderson family is about to discover that pocket change can buy a lot more than they think. 3 days later, I'm sitting in Mickey's gym, wrapping my hands for a training session, when Detective Jim Monroe drops onto the bench beside me. We've been sparring partners for 5 years, ever since I started boxing to deal with the stress of managing other people's money and egos. You look like heck, Tom, Jim says, lacing up his gloves. Sarah's still giving you grief about the time you spend here? If only he knew. Something like that. The past 72 hours have been a masterclass in acting normal while your world implodes. Sarah's been more attentive than she's been in months, probably guilt-eating at her conscience. She made my favorite dinner last night, pot roast with those little potatoes, and asked about my day like she actually cared about the answer. Meanwhile, Hank's been working his magic. 3 major deals Anderson Holdings was counting on have mysteriously fallen through. A zoning permit they needed got delayed indefinitely. Their biggest client started asking uncomfortable questions about project timelines. You want to talk about it? Jim asks, adjusting his headgear. Not yet, but I might need a favor soon. Legal favor or friend favor? Both. We spend the next hour beating the heck out of each other, which helps clear my head. Jim's got reach on me, but I'm faster and I fight dirty when I need to. Lessons that apply to more than just boxing. After our session, I drive past Anderson Holdings' downtown office. Even from the street, I can see the lights burning on the top floor. Gerald's having a crisis meeting, no doubt. Good. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. Book club running late tonight. Don't wait up. Book club. Right. I text back. No problem. Working late myself. Instead of going home, I drive to the Riverside Hotel, the kind of place where married people go to not be married for a few hours. Sure enough, Ryan's BMW is in the parking lot, tucked away in the back corner like he's fooling anyone. I park 3 spaces away and settle in to wait. This is the part where a smarter man might just hire a private investigator, gather evidence, and file for divorce. But I've never been accused of being smart, just effective. An hour later, they emerge. Sarah's wearing the black dress I bought her for our anniversary last year, and Ryan's got his hand on the small of her back like he owns her. They're laughing about something completely oblivious to the world around them. I follow them back to town, staying far enough back to avoid detection. They stop at Benedetto's, the fancy Italian place where I proposed to Sarah 9 years ago. The irony isn't lost on me. While they're inside playing house, I take a walk around Ryan's BIM. Nice car, probably cost more than I make in 6 months. Leather interior, custom sound system, vanity plates that read Rhino 1. This guy's ego is bigger than his trust fund. I pull out my pocket knife and consider my options. Slashing tires is too obvious, too juvenile. But there are other ways to send a message. 20 minutes later, I'm back in my truck, watching through the restaurant window as Ryan and Sarah share dessert. My phone buzzes with another text, this one from Hank. Anderson Holdings just lost the Pemberton contract. Gerald's calling emergency board meetings. I text back, good, keep the pressure on. Ryan and Sarah are walking back to his car now, his arm around her waist. They stop beside the BMW, and Ryan's face goes from smug satisfaction to confusion to rage in about 3 seconds. Someone, and I have no idea who, has used what appears to be lipstick to write, "Hope you enjoyed the ride," across his windshield. Sarah's looking around frantically like she's expecting photographers to jump out of the bushes. Ryan's pulling out his phone, probably calling security or the police or his daddy's lawyer. But there's nothing they can do. No permanent damage, no real crime. Just a message that someone's watching. As I drive home, I can't help but smile. Gerald Anderson spent 8 years treating me like I was lucky to breathe the same air as his precious daughter. Sarah spent the last year acting like our marriage was a burden she had to endure. They wanted to play games with the underdog. Time to show them how dangerous that can be. The Anderson Family Charity Gala is the social event of the season in our little corner of Connecticut. 500 of the area's most important people, all dressed in their finest clothes and their most fake smiles, pretending to care about whatever cause Gerald's decided to champion this year. I'm adjusting my bow tie in the bedroom mirror when Sarah emerges from the bathroom in a stunning red evening gown. She looks beautiful, she always does, but there's something different in her eyes tonight. Guilt, maybe, or excitement about seeing her lover in public. "You look handsome," she says, straightening my collar with the kind of intimate gesture that used to mean something. "Thanks, you look incredible." And she does. Which makes what I'm about to do that much harder. The gala is being held at the Riverside Country Club, the same place where Gerald blackballed my membership application 3 years ago. "Nothing personal," he'd said with that condescending smile. "We just prefer members who fit the culture." Tonight, I'm going to show him exactly how well I fit. The ballroom is packed with Connecticut's elite, all of them sipping champagne and pretending their money makes them better people. I spot Gerald immediately, tall, silver-haired, holding court near the auction tables like the king of his little kingdom. Sarah excuses herself to powder her nose, which is apparently code for go find Ryan and remind him to keep his hands to himself in public. I watch her weave through the crowd, stopping to air-kiss acquaintances and exchange meaningless pleasantries. "Tom, didn't expect to see you here." I turn to find Marcus Webb, Sarah's college friend and one of Gerald's junior partners at Anderson Holdings. We've never liked each other. He thinks I married above my station, and I think he's a spineless yes man who wouldn't last 5 minutes in the real world. "Marcus, how's business?" His smile falters slightly. "Challenging. The market's been unpredictable lately." Unpredictable. I taste the word like fine wine. Funny how that happens. Before Marcus can respond, I spot Sarah across the room. She's standing with Ryan near the bar, and they're not being nearly as discreet as they think they are. His hand brushes hers as he hands her a drink. She laughs at something he says, touching his arm in that familiar way that used to be reserved for me. "Excuse me, Marcus. I see my wife needs another drink." I make my way through the crowd, nodding at people I recognize, ignoring the whispered conversations that stop when I get too close. Small towns are like that. Everyone knows everyone else's business, even when they pretend they don't. Sarah, Ryan. I appear beside them like a ghost, enjoying the way Ryan's face goes pale. "Having a good time?" "Tom!" Sarah's voice is too bright, too cheerful. "I was just telling Ryan about your new investment strategies." "Were you? That's interesting since we haven't discussed my work in months." Ryan clears his throat, trying to regain his composure. "Your wife was just being polite, Tom. We were actually discussing the Anderson Holdings expansion plans." "Ah, yes, the expansion. How's that going, Ryan? I heard the Pemberton contract fell through." Now it's Ryan's turn to look uncomfortable. "Temporary setback. These things happen in business." "Do they? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like Anderson Holdings is hemorrhaging money. 3 major contracts canceled, 2 key investors pulling out, zoning issues with the Hartford project." "That's not bad luck, Ryan. That's systematic failure." Sarah's looking between us like she's watching a tennis match, confusion written across her beautiful face. She has no idea that her husband has been quietly dismantling her father's empire from the inside. "I think you're misinformed," Ryan says, but there's sweat beading on his forehead. "Am I? Because I heard Gerald's been calling emergency board meetings all week. Something about cash flow problems and investor confidence." That's when Gerald himself appears, as if summoned by the mention of his name. He's wearing his best fake smile, but I can see the strain around his eyes. "Tom, so glad you could make it. I was hoping we could chat later about some investment opportunities." "Investment opportunities?" I laugh, and it's not a pleasant sound. "Gerald, I think you've got bigger problems than finding new investors." His smile doesn't waver, but his eyes go cold. "I'm not sure what you mean." "I mean, Anderson Holdings is about to learn a very expensive lesson about treating people like they don't matter." The 4 of us stand there in a circle of tension while the party swirls around us. Sarah's grabbing my arm, trying to pull me away, but I'm not done yet. "You see, Gerald, you made a mistake 8 years ago. You assumed that because I don't come from money, I don't understand it. You thought you could treat me like the help, like I was lucky to be part of your family. But here's the thing about underestimated people. We pay attention, we learn, and sometimes we bite back." Gerald's face is turning an interesting shade of red. "Tom, I think you've had too much to drink. Actually, I'm stone sober, which is more than I can say for your business decisions lately." That's when Ryan makes his mistake. He steps forward, putting himself between Gerald and me like he's protecting his mentor. "Tom, you need to back off. You're embarrassing yourself." I look at this kid because that's all he is, really, a 28-year-old trust fund baby who's never worked a real day in his life. And something inside me snaps. Embarrassing myself? Ryan, you're sleeping with my wife in hotel rooms and writing love notes on company letterhead. If anyone's embarrassing themselves, it's you. The words hang in the air like a bomb that hasn't exploded yet. Sarah gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Gerald's eyes go wide. Ryan looks like he's about to throw up, and then the whispers start. The conversations around us have stopped, and I can feel 500 pairs of eyes turning in our direction. In a place like this, scandal spreads faster than wildfire. "Tom, please," Sarah whispers, but it's too late. Ryan's recovered enough to try damage control. "Tom, I don't know what you think you know, but I know you drive a BMW with vanity plates. I know you've been meeting my wife at the Riverside Hotel every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months. I know you sent her flowers last week with a note that said counting the minutes. Should I go on?" Ryan's face has gone from pale to green. Gerald looks like he's about to have a stroke. And Sarah's looking at me like she's seeing me for the first time. "How long have you known?" she asks quietly. "Long enough to make some interesting business decisions." That's when Gerald finally puts the pieces together. His face goes through a series of expressions: confusion, realization, and finally rage. You're the one who's been sabotaging my company." "Sabotaging? Gerald, I prefer to think of it as market correction. You've been coasting on reputation and family connections for years. I just introduced some real-world consequences. The crowd around us has grown, drawn by the promise of drama among the upper crust. I can see phones being pulled out, social media posts being composed. By tomorrow, this will be the talk of the entire county. "You son of a witch," Gerald hisses. "I'll destroy you." "With what? Your company's hemorrhaging money? Your golden boy's exposed as a homewrecker? And your daughter's about to be the center of the biggest scandal this town has seen in years. I'd say you've got bigger problems than me." That's when Ryan finally finds his spine. He steps forward, getting in my face like he's going to do something about it. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won something here?" "Ryan, I know I've won. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" He takes a swing at me. It's clumsy, telegraphed, the kind of punch thrown by someone who's never been in a real fight. I duck under it easily and respond with a short, sharp jab to his solar plexus. Nothing fancy, nothing that'll leave permanent damage, but enough to double him over and send him stumbling backward into the dessert table. The crowd gasps as Ryan goes down in a shower of chocolate cake and champagne flutes. Security is moving toward us, but I'm already backing away, hands raised in a gesture of innocence. "Self-defense," I announce to the room. Everyone saw him swing first. Gerald's beside himself, trying to help Ryan to his feet, while maintaining some shred of dignity. Sarah's standing frozen in the middle of it all, tears streaming down her face. "Tom," she says, her voice barely audible above the chaos. "Tom, please." I look at her, really look at her, and for a moment, I remember why I fell in love with her. But that woman is gone, replaced by someone who thinks betrayal is acceptable as long as it's done quietly. "Enjoy the rest of your evening," I tell her. "All of you." And then I walk out of the Riverside Country Club, with my head held high, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage and Gerald Anderson's reputation. The real fun is just getting started. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in my office at Morrison Financial, the small investment firm I started 5 years ago when I got tired of making other people rich. When my assistant Julie knocks on the door. "Tom, there's a Samantha Phillips here to see you. Says it's about Sarah." Samantha Phillips, Sarah's best friend since college and the biggest gossip in 3 counties. If she's here, it means the social fallout from the gala is worse than I thought. "Send her in." Samantha sweeps into my office like she owns the place, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She's always been beautiful in that artificial way that money can buy. Perfect teeth, perfect hair, perfect everything except her personality. "Tom, darling, we need to talk." "Do we?" "Because I was under the impression that you and Sarah had written me off as a social liability." She settles into the chair across from my desk, crossing her legs with practiced precision. "That was before I realized how resourceful you can be." "Resourceful? Is that what we're calling it?" "Gerald Anderson is finished in this town. Anderson Holdings filed for bankruptcy protection yesterday, and the board voted him out as CEO. Ryan Mitchell's been blacklisted from every decent firm in the state. And Sarah," she pauses dramatically. "Sarah's been cut off from the family money until she comes to her senses about her marriage." I lean back in my chair, trying to look surprised. "That's unfortunate. Don't play coy with me, Tom. We both know you orchestrated this whole thing." "Did I?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like the Anderson family finally faced some consequences for their actions. Market forces can be unpredictable." Samantha leans forward, and I catch a whiff of her expensive perfume. "Here's what I think happened. I think you've been planning this for months, maybe years. I think you knew about Sarah and Ryan long before the gala, and you used that information to destroy them systematically." She's smarter than I gave her credit for. "That's an interesting theory." "It's more than a theory. I've been asking around, doing some research. Meridian Capital, the shell company that's been pulling support from Anderson Holdings, it's registered to a Thomas Morrison. Same name as you, different middle initial. Very clever." I study her face, looking for tells. Samantha's always been a player in the social game, but this feels different, more calculated. "What do you want, Samantha?" "I want in." That stops me cold. "Excuse me? I want in on whatever you're planning next. Sarah treated me like a servant for years, expecting me to cover for her affairs and clean up her messes. Gerald Anderson blackballed my ex-husband out from the country club after our divorce, just because he could. And Ryan?" She smiles, and it's not pleasant. Ryan tried to seduce me at last year's Christmas party, then acted like I was delusional when I turned him down. So this is about revenge. This is about justice. They've all had it coming for years, and you're the first person with the balls and the brains to actually do something about it. I consider her offer. Samantha knows where all the bodies are buried in this town's social scene. She's got access to information I could never get on my own, and she's clearly not as loyal to Sarah as I thought. What did you have in mind? Sarah's been trying to start her own interior design business. She's been using your joint assets as collateral for loans, forging your signature on documents. I have copies of everything. Now that's interesting. How did you get copies? I've been her business partner for the past 6 months. Silent partner, of course. She needed someone with clean credit after Gerald cut her off. The pieces start falling into place. You've been setting her up. I've been documenting her illegal activities. There's a difference. Not much of one. Samantha shrugs. I learned from watching you work. Sometimes the best revenge is just giving people enough rope to hang themselves. My phone buzzes with a text from Hank. Anderson Holdings officially dissolved, assets being liquidated. Your Meridian Capital investment is now worth about $12 million. $12 million. Not bad for a small-town investment advisor who supposedly doesn't understand money. So what's the plan? I ask Samantha. Sarah's meeting with potential investors tomorrow night at the Harbor Club. She's going to present her business plan, ask for $2 million in startup capital. What she doesn't know is that I've already contacted every serious investor in the area and warned them off. Warned them off how? By telling them the truth. That she's using forged documents, that her husband is planning to divorce her and claim half of any business assets, and that her family's recent financial troubles make her a terrible risk. I have to admit, I'm impressed. And then she'll be forced to accept funding from some very questionable sources. The kind of people who don't like it when they don't get paid back on time. Samantha, that's exactly what she deserves. Do you know what she said about you at lunch last week? She said you were a pathetic little man with delusions of grandeur who never deserved her in the first place. She said marrying you was the biggest mistake of her life. The words hit harder than I expected. 8 years of marriage, and that's how she really sees me. I'm in, I tell Samantha, but we do this my way. No one gets physically hurt, and nothing we do crosses the line into serious criminal territory. Agreed. I'm not interested in going to prison for Sarah Anderson. Sarah Morrison. I correct her. She's still my wife, technically. Not for long, I'm guessing. No, not for long. The Harbor Club is exactly the kind of place where Sarah feels comfortable. All brass fixtures and leather furniture, designed to make rich people feel important. I'm sitting in my truck across the street, watching through binoculars as she arrives in her Mercedes. The car's a lease, paid for with money from our joint account that she thinks I don't monitor. Samantha's already inside, playing her role as the supportive business partner. The investors Sarah thinks she's meeting are actually actors Samantha hired through a casting agency. The whole thing is an elaborate setup designed to humiliate Sarah in the most public way possible. My phone rings. Detective Jim Monroe. Tom, we need to talk. Can you meet me at Mickey's in an hour? Kinda busy right now, Jim. This isn't a request. Gerald Anderson filed a complaint against you this morning. He's claiming you've been stalking his family and making terrorist threats. Terrorist threats? That's a new one. Jim, you know that's ridiculous. I know Gerald Anderson is a desperate man who just lost everything, and desperate men do stupid things. Just meet me at the gym, okay? We'll sort this out. I check my watch. Sarah's meeting should be over in 30 minutes, which gives me just enough time to deal with Gerald's latest tantrum. Mickey's gym is nearly empty at 9 p.m. Just a few die-hard boxers working the heavy bags. Jim's waiting for me in the office, looking tired and frustrated. Gerald Anderson is claiming you've been threatening him and his family for weeks. He says you sabotaged his business and physically assaulted his employee. Ryan threw the first punch. You can ask anyone who was at the gala. I did ask. Problem is, Gerald's got 3 witnesses who say you started the fight, and they're all willing to testify to that in court. They're lying. Probably. But Gerald's also got phone records showing multiple calls from your number to Anderson Holdings at all hours of the night. He's got security footage of you following his daughter. And he's got financial records that suggest you've been manipulating his company's stock price. I sit down heavily on the bench press, suddenly feeling every one of my 42 years. Jim, everything I did was legal. Aggressive, maybe, but legal. Legal and smart are two different things, Tom. This guy's got connections and he's using them. The DA's office is already asking questions. What kind of questions? The kind that end with you getting arrested for stalking and harassment. Maybe worse if Gerald can prove financial manipulation. My phone buzzes with a text from Samantha. Package delivered. Sarah's not happy. The package, copies of all the forged loan documents delivered to Sarah's fake investors just as she's trying to pitch them for money. By now, she knows the whole meeting was a setup. She knows someone's been watching her, documenting her illegal activities. Tom, are you listening to me? Yeah, Jim, I'm listening. Good, because I'm going to give you some free advice as a friend. Whatever you're planning next, don't. Walk away. File for divorce, take your half of the assets, and disappear for a while. Let this whole thing blow over. And let them get away with it? They're not getting away with anything. Gerald's broke, his company's gone, and his reputation's destroyed. Ryan Mitchell's unemployed and probably unemployable. And Sarah pauses. Sarah's about to find out what it's like to live in the real world without daddy's money to protect her. He's right, of course. I've already won. The Anderson family empire's in ruins. Sarah's been exposed as a cheater and a criminal, and I'm sitting on $12 million that nobody knows about. But it's not enough. Not yet. Thanks for the warning, Jim. I'll be careful. Tom, I said I'll be careful. I'm walking back to my truck when my phone rings. Sarah's name on the caller ID. Tom, we need to talk. Something terrible has happened. Her voice is shaky, on the edge of panic. Good. What's wrong, Sarah? Someone knows about the business loans. They sent copies of everything to the investors tonight. They know about the signatures, about the collateral. Tom, I think I'm in serious trouble. That does sound serious. Tom, please. I know you're angry about Ryan, and you have every right to be, but this is bigger than our marriage problems. If these documents become public, I could go to prison. Prison seems like a strong possibility. Tom, please, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. Sarah, do you remember what you said about me at lunch last week? Something about me being a pathetic little man with delusions of grandeur? Silence on the other end of the line. How did you... I know a lot of things, Sarah. I know about Ryan. I know about the forged documents. I know about the money you've been stealing from our joint accounts. I know about the apartment you rented downtown for your business meetings. Tom, I can explain. No need to explain. I understand perfectly. You married beneath your station, and you've been looking for a way out ever since your father started poisoning you against me. That's not true, isn't it? Then tell me, Sarah, when exactly did you decide that our marriage was the biggest mistake of your life? Another long silence. I never said that. We both know you did, just like we both know you've been planning to divorce me and take half of everything I've worked for. Tom, where are you? Can we meet somewhere and talk about this? I look across the street at the Harbor Club, where Sarah's probably standing in the parking lot, trying to figure out how her perfect plan went so wrong. I don't think that's a good idea, Sarah. You see, I've got some business to attend to. Turns out that when you bet against someone, you should make sure they don't hold all the cards. What does that mean? It means you're about to learn what it feels like to be the underdog. I hang up and drive home to our empty house. Tomorrow, the lawyers will start circling. Gerald will escalate his threats. Sarah will probably try to pin everything on me, claim she was coerced or manipulated. But tonight, I'm going to sit in my garage, work on my truck, and enjoy the silence. Because for the first time in 8 years, I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not. The underdog is about to become the last man standing. The divorce papers arrive on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier who looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sarah's filing for divorce on grounds of mental cruelty and financial misuse, claiming I've been controlling and manipulative throughout our marriage. She's also asking for half of all marital assets, including my business. What she doesn't know is that Morrison Financial is essentially worthless now. I've been systematically moving assets into offshore accounts and shell companies for the past month. The $12 million from the Anderson Holdings collapse is safely hidden where her lawyers will never find it. I'm reading through the legal documents when my phone rings. Unknown number. Tom Morrison, speaking. This is Vincent Carrera. I believe you know my client, Sarah Morrison. Vincent Carrera, the most expensive divorce attorney in the state, known for destroying husbands in court and taking half of everything they own. Sarah's clearly not messing around. What can I do for you, Vincent? You can make this easy on yourself. My client is prepared to be reasonable, but only if you cooperate fully with asset disclosure and settlement negotiations. Reasonable? That's funny. Mr. Morrison, I've reviewed your financial statements. You're a small-town investment advisor with maybe $2 million in assets. My client comes from one of the most prominent families in Connecticut. Do you really think you can win a protracted legal battle against us? Vincent, let me ask you something. How much research did you do on the Anderson family before you took this case? I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, did you check to see whether Gerald Anderson can actually afford your fees? Because last I heard, Anderson Holdings was liquidated 2 weeks ago, and Gerald's personal assets are tied up in bankruptcy court. Silence on the other end of the line. Mr. Morrison, my client's family situation doesn't affect her right to a fair settlement. Fair settlement. Right. Vincent, here's what's going to happen. You're going to discover that Sarah forged my signature on multiple loan documents. You're going to find out that she's been stealing money from our joint accounts to fund a business venture with her lover, and you're going to realize that she's not the victim in this situation. Those are serious allegations, Mr. Morrison. Do you have proof? I have everything I need. That afternoon, I'm sitting in my lawyer's office, going over strategy. David Chen is nothing like Vincent Carrera. He's young, hungry, and willing to fight dirty when the situation calls for it. Tom, I have to ask, did you really orchestrate the collapse of Anderson Holdings? I made some smart investments and some strategic withdrawals. Everything I did was legal. Legal, maybe, but it's going to look bad in court if Sarah's team can prove you deliberately destroyed her family's business out of spite. Let them try to prove it. Meanwhile, we focus on her criminal activities. The forged signatures alone are enough to put her in prison for 5 years. David shuffles through the documents Samantha provided. These are incriminating, but we need to be careful about how we obtained them. If Sarah can claim they were stolen or illegally obtained, they weren't. Samantha Phillips was Sarah's business partner. Everything she gave me was legally obtained through their partnership agreement, and Samantha's willing to testify to that. Samantha's willing to do whatever it takes to see Sarah get what she deserves. My phone buzzes with a text from Jim Monroe. Need to see you ASAP, and Gerald's escalating. I excuse myself from David's office and drive to the police station. Jim's waiting for me in an interview room, looking grim. Tom, sit down. This doesn't look good. Gerald Anderson filed a formal complaint this morning. He's claiming you've been threatening him and his family, that you deliberately sabotaged his business, and that you're planning to hurt Sarah. Jim, I know Gerald Anderson is desperate and probably lying, but I also know you've been playing a dangerous game, and it's about to catch up with you. He slides a folder across the table. Inside are photos. Me following Sarah to the hotel, me outside Anderson Holdings at night, me in the parking lot during Ryan's confrontation. Where did these come from? Gerald hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago. He's been documenting everything you do, everywhere you go. And some of this looks bad, Tom. Really bad. I study the photos. They're all perfectly legal activities, but taken together, they paint a picture of obsessive behavior. What does Gerald want? He wants you arrested for stalking and harassment. He wants you prosecuted for financial crimes. And he wants you to stay away from his daughter. His daughter is my wife. Not for much longer, from what I hear. Jim's right. The divorce proceedings are moving fast, and Sarah's team is playing hardball. But I've still got cards to play. Jim, what if I told you I had evidence that Sarah's been committing fraud? Forging signatures, stealing money, lying to investors? I'd say you better have rock-solid proof, because anything that looks like retaliation is going to hurt your case. I pull out my phone and show him copies of the forged loan documents. His expression changes as he scrolls through them. Jesus, Tom, where did you get these? Sarah's business partner provided them. Everything's documented, witnessed, and legally obtained. This changes things. If these documents are authentic, Sarah's looking at serious criminal charges. They're authentic. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Jim leans back in his chair, studying me. Tom, I've known you for 5 years. You're one of the most level-headed guys I know. But this whole situation, it's like you've become someone else. Maybe I have. Maybe I got tired of being the nice guy who gets walked on by people who think they're better than me. And maybe you've gone too far. Have I? Gerald Anderson spent 8 years treating me like garbage. Sarah spent the last year cheating on me and stealing from me. Ryan Mitchell tried to destroy my marriage and humiliate me in public. All I did was give them a taste of their own medicine. You destroyed a $50 million company, Tom. You ruined Gerald's reputation and probably his health. You turned Sarah's social circle against her and exposed her affair in the most public way possible. That's not justice, that's revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. Jim stands up, closing the folder. I'm going to pretend this conversation never happened. I'm going to tell Gerald that we investigated his claims and found no evidence of criminal activity. But Tom, this ends here. No more games, no more revenge plots. You file for divorce, you present your evidence of Sarah's fraud, and you walk away. And if I don't, then next time Gerald calls, I won't be able to help you. That evening, I'm sitting in my empty house, staring at the divorce papers and thinking about Jim's warning. He's right, I have gone too far. But I'm also closer to winning than I've ever been. My phone rings. Samantha. Tom, we have a problem. Sarah knows I've been working with you. How? She found copies of the documents in my purse. We had a fight and she figured it out. She's threatening to have me arrested for theft. Samantha, everything you gave me was legally... I know what it was, Tom. But Sarah's not thinking clearly right now. She's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. What kind of stupid things? She's meeting with some very unpleasant people tomorrow night. The kind of people who loan money to people with no other options. Loan sharks? Worse. These guys don't just break legs when you can't pay them back. They take over your entire life. I consider this new development. Sarah's desperation is leading her into dangerous territory, and part of me wants to let her dig her own grave. But another part of me, the part that still remembers loving her, knows I can't let her destroy herself completely. Where's the meeting? Warehouse District, down by the river. Tom, you can't go there. These aren't country club bullies. These are serious criminals. I'm not going to let my wife get involved with loan sharks, no matter what she's done to me. Tom, she's not your wife anymore. Not really. The divorce papers don't mean anything until a judge signs them. Until then, Sarah's my responsibility. This is a mistake. Maybe it is, but I've been making mistakes for months now, and somehow they keep working out in my favor. Samantha, I need you to do something for me. Call Detective Monroe and tell him you have information about the illegal loan activity in the warehouse district. Don't mention my name, just say you overheard something. Tom, just do it, and then stay away from Sarah until this is over. I hang up and start getting ready. If Sarah wants to play with dangerous people, she's going to learn that the most dangerous person in her life has been sleeping next to her for 8 years. The warehouse district at midnight looks like something out of a crime movie. Abandoned buildings, broken streetlights, and the kind of silence that makes you check over your shoulder every few steps. I park my truck 3 blocks away and walk the rest of the distance, staying in the shadows. Sarah's Mercedes is parked outside a converted warehouse, along with 2 black SUVs that scream, "Professional criminal." Through a dirty window, I can see her sitting at a table with 3 men in expensive suits. She looks terrified, which means she's finally starting to understand the situation she's gotten herself into. I'm trying to figure out how to get closer when my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "We know you're here. Come inside or your wife gets hurt." So much for the element of surprise. The warehouse door opens as I approach, and a large man in a black suit gestures me inside. The interior has been converted into a makeshift office. Folding tables and metal chairs and the kind of portable lighting you see at construction sites. Sarah's sitting across from a man in his 50s with silver hair and dead eyes. The other 2 men are clearly muscle, positioned to block any exit routes. "Mr. Morrison," the silver-haired man says without looking up. "I'm Vincent Torino. Please, have a seat." Vincent Torino. I know that name from newspaper articles about organized crime in Connecticut. This is much worse than loan sharks. "Tom, what are you doing here?" Sarah's voice is shaky, barely above a whisper. "Apparently, I'm here to discuss your business loan." Torino smiles, and it's not a pleasant expression. "Your wife came to us looking for $2 million in startup capital. She offered some very interesting collateral." "What kind of collateral?" "Information about certain financial activities involving Anderson Holdings and a shell company called Meridian Capital." My blood runs cold. Sarah knows about Meridian Capital. "I'm not sure what she told you, but She told us that her husband has been manipulating stock prices and hiding assets through offshore accounts. She told us that there's approximately $12 million in untraceable funds that could be redistributed. Sarah's looking at me with a mixture of fear and defiance. Tom, I know what you did. I know about the shell companies, the hidden accounts, everything. I hired my own investigator. Sarah, you have no idea what you're dealing with here. Don't I? These gentlemen have offered to help me recover the money you stole from my family. All I have to do is provide them with account numbers and access codes. Torino leans back in his chair, studying me like I'm a particularly interesting specimen. Mr. Morrison, your wife has put us in an awkward position. She's asking us to help her commit what amounts to theft, which we can't officially condone. But she's also offering us a substantial finder's fee for our assistance. How substantial? 50%. $6 million. These guys aren't messing around. The problem, Torino continues, is that we need your cooperation to access the accounts. Your wife doesn't have the necessary passwords or security codes. And if I don't cooperate? One of the muscle guys steps forward, cracking his knuckles. The message is clear. Tom, please, Sarah says. Just give them what they want. We can split the money and start over somewhere else. Start over? Sarah, these people aren't going to let us walk away with $6 million. Once they have the money, we become liabilities. You're very perceptive, Mr. Morrison, Torino says, but you're also in no position to negotiate. That's when I hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. Samantha came through. Torino hears them, too. His expression doesn't change, but I can see the calculation in his eyes. It seems we have company. Police, I say. Someone must have reported suspicious activity. How unfortunate. The sirens are getting louder now, and I can see flashing lights through the dirty windows. Torino nods to his men, who immediately start moving toward the back of the warehouse. Mr. Morrison, it seems our business will have to wait for another time, but we'll be in touch. Tom! Sarah grabs my arm as Torino and his men disappear through a rear exit. What's going to happen to us? That depends on what you tell the police. The warehouse door bursts open, and Detective Monroe enters with 4 uniformed officers, tools drawn. They sweep the room quickly, securing the area. Tom, Sarah, are you both okay? We're fine, Jim. Just a misunderstanding about a business loan. Jim looks around the warehouse, taking in the setup, the abandoned chairs, the lingering smell of expensive cologne, and fear. Business loan, right, Tom, we need to talk, outside. I follow Jim out of the warehouse, leaving Sarah to be questioned by the other officers. Tom, what the heck were you thinking? Vincent Torino isn't someone you mess around with. I wasn't messing around with him, Sarah was. Sarah was trying to get a loan from the mob. Sarah was trying to steal $12 million with the mob's help. Jim stops walking and turns to face me. $12 million? Tom, where did you get $12 million? I made some very good investments in Anderson Holdings, among other things. Jim rubs his forehead, looking tired and frustrated. Tom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Vincent Torino doesn't forget people who cost him money. If he thinks you're responsible for this raid, he's going to come after you. Then I guess I better make sure he has other things to worry about. What does that mean? It means I recorded the entire conversation on my phone. Vincent Torino just offered to help steal $12 million in exchange for a $6 million finder's fee. That's conspiracy to commit theft, extortion, and probably a dozen other charges. Jim stares at me for a long moment. You recorded Vincent Torino trying to extort you. I recorded Vincent Torino incriminating himself and my wife in multiple felonies. Tom, you realize this makes you a witness in a federal organized crime case? I realize it makes me the guy who just handed the FBI their biggest case in years. We walk back toward the warehouse, where Sarah is still being questioned. She looks small and scared, nothing like the confident woman who thought she could outsmart everyone. What's going to happen to her? I ask Jim. That depends on what she tells us and what the federal prosecutors decide to do. Conspiracy charges, attempted theft, dealing with known criminals. She's looking at serious prison time. And me? You're looking at witness protection, probably. Vincent Torino doesn't forgive and forget. I watch through the warehouse window as Sarah realizes that her plan has backfired spectacularly. She wanted to take half of everything I'd worked for, and instead she's facing federal charges and the wrath of organized crime. Jim, I need to ask you a favor. You need a lot of favors lately. I need you to make sure Sarah understands that she has one chance to cooperate fully with the federal investigation. If she tries to minimize her involvement or blame everything on me, I'll make sure the prosecutors know about every crime she's committed in the past year. Tom, I'm not kidding, Jim. The forged signatures, the stolen money, the fraudulent loan applications, I have documentation for all of it. Sarah can either help put Vincent Torino in prison, or she can go to prison with him. Jim studies my face in the flashing police lights. You really have changed, haven't you? I told you, I got tired of being the underdog. And now? I look at Sarah one more time, remembering the woman I married and mourning the marriage we could have had. But that's over now. All of it. Now I'm the last man standing. 3 hours later, I'm sitting in an FBI field office, giving my statement to Agent Rebecca Torres. She's young, sharp, and very interested in my recording of Vincent Torino. Mr. Morrison, this recording is extremely valuable evidence, but it also puts you in considerable danger. I understand. Do you? Because Vincent Torino has a long memory and a longer reach. Even if we arrest him tonight, he has associates who might decide to settle the score. Agent Torres, I've been underestimated my entire life. I think I can handle Vincent Torino's associates. She looks at me skeptically. Mr. Morrison, these aren't country club bullies or small-town gossips. These are professional criminals who end people for a living. Then I guess it's a good thing I'm not planning to stick around. What does that mean? It means that by tomorrow morning, Tom Morrison is going to disappear. New identity, new location, new life. The $12 million I've been hiding, that's going to buy me a very comfortable retirement somewhere warm and far away. Agent Torres leans back in her chair. Mr. Morrison, are you telling me you're planning to flee the country? I'm telling you that I'm planning to start over somewhere that Vincent Torino and the Anderson family can't find me. We can offer you witness protection. Thanks, but I prefer to handle my own security arrangements. She studies me for a long moment. You know, when I first read your file, I thought you were just another angry husband who got in over his head. But you've been planning this whole thing from the beginning, haven't you? Agent Torres, I'm a financial advisor. Planning is what I do. Planning the destruction of Anderson Holdings, planning your wife's exposure and arrest, planning to disappear with $12 million. That's not financial advice, that's revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. At dawn, I'm standing in my empty garage looking at the tools and equipment I'll never use again. The house is already sold to a shell company I created months ago, which will sell it again to a legitimate buyer. The paper trail will be impossible to follow. My phone rings one last time. Sarah calling from jail. Tom, please, you have to help me. The FBI wants me to testify against Vincent Torino, but if I do that, his people will end me. Sarah, you should have thought about that before you decided to steal $12 million with the mob's help. Tom, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for her, almost. Sarah, here's what you're going to do. You're going to tell the FBI everything you know about Vincent Torino. You're going to plead guilty to the conspiracy charges and accept whatever sentence they offer. And you're going to hope that Vincent Torino has bigger problems to worry about than revenge. And what about us? What about our marriage? Our marriage ended the day you decided that Ryan Mitchell was a better bet than Tom Morrison. Everything that's happened since then has just been paperwork. Tom, please, goodbye, Sarah. I hang up and drop the phone in a trash can. Tom Morrison's phone. Tom Morrison's problems. Tom Morrison's old life. By noon, I'm on a private jet heading south, carrying nothing but a single suitcase and a new passport. The man on the passport looks like me, but his name is David Chen, a small joke that only I will ever understand. Below me, Connecticut disappears into the distance. Somewhere down there, Gerald Anderson is probably still trying to figure out how a small-town investment advisor destroyed his empire. Sarah's sitting in a federal holding cell, finally understanding that actions have consequences. Vincent Torino is being arrested on conspiracy charges that will put him away for decades. And Detective Jim Monroe is probably shaking his head, wondering how his quiet boxing partner became the most dangerous man in 3 counties. The pilot's voice comes over the intercom. Mr. Chen will be landing in the Cayman Islands in 4 hours. I lean back in my seat and close my eyes. The underdog's ledger is finally balanced.